Our hot take is that basketball should be positionless, and there are three skills that every player should possess in order to make them invaluable. So, in this podcast, Mark, Reed, and I are going to break down exactly what those three skills are and how to develop them no matter your size or your speed.
Welcome to the Hours. This is a podcast for coaches at all levels who want to think, teach, and lead better. We call this the Hours because this is where we get to deep dive and have real conversations and spend real time on the things that actually matter. You can get the show notes and tools from today's episode in our weekly newsletter, so check out the link below. Let's get into this week's episode.
All right, Mark, Reed, as people that have coached college basketball, we're going to put this all together so that coaches and players can really use all the information to develop these three skills so they can get recruited, so they can get more opportunities, get more playing time. Let's go ahead and define what is skill, because I don't think that every coach and every player, every program actually defines skill exactly the same. Mark, how would you define skill if we're trying to say these are the three must-have skills that can make you invaluable?
Yeah, I'll start by saying what skill is traditionally been thought of and what it's not is technique. Like dribbling is a skill, shooting is a skill. To me, all those things are like part of what skill is. Skill is the relationship between a player and their environment.
Mhm.
So when to shoot and being able to shoot is the skill, right? So all of those things together. So knowing what to do, knowing how to do it, and then being able to do it, all those three things combined together would be what skill is. So it's technique plus game context.
Okay, let me ask you this. Is athleticism a skill?
It's something that can be developed. I think if something anything that can be learned would be a skill. So can athleticism be learned or is it developed?
Yes.
Yeah, I know it's hard. Like it's hard for me to say no, but it's also hard for me to say yes because can I learn athleticism? Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I develop into a better athlete? Yes. So I'll say it's a skill.
Okay, I like that.
Convince myself.
Reed, you're one of the best player development, or some people might say skill development coaches out there. This is your area of expertise. How would you define skill?
Well, I would define skill very similar to the way that Mark did. And one of the things that I say that's maybe a little bit different from how we traditionally view skill is that decision making is a skill. And I think it's one of the most
Mm.
valuable skills out there. You know, when you talk about becoming a better shooter, well, how do you do that? You're going to have to rep that out. You're going to have to take a lot of shots. You want to be a better ball handler, you would do the same thing. And the decision making piece, I think, is oftentimes lost, but it needs to be trained the exact same way you would train any other skill. If you want to be a better decision maker, you need to put yourself in situations where you're required to make decisions and required to make them fast. And so the skill definition, I think, is often tied to technique, but it's like the best players are the best problem solvers, and the best problem solvers are the best decision makers. So I think it comes back to those pieces as well.
I was gonna say I love the solving problems piece. Like the more skilled you are, the more solutions you have to solve the problems that the defense poses for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is really timely actually because we just launched Catalyst training by SAVI to help you develop skill all across the board, your decision making, maybe even your athleticism. And we're about to launch our Playmaker Challenge, actually is going to be launching on March 16th. And it will include daily lessons and activities for players to log and complete over a 2 week time. And really, I think the outcome of this is to help players play with more confidence, to go from being a bench or a support player to really someone that is a playmaker and is making things happen on the floor so that, players can go through a lesson every single day, complete the activity, and really at the end of 2 weeks, know I actually got better at something. I actually am improving my skill. I would actually argue that decision making in isolation is not a skill. Like, Mark is not a good or bad decision maker. Reed is not a good or bad decision maker. But the decision making and physical ability in any given situation are intrinsically tied together. And so Mark is a good passer or a developing passer. Mark is really good at beating a defender off the dribble or not. or Mark was really good at defensively anticipating passing lanes and getting deflections. And I would say that it's not a physical thing or a mental thing, but rather the marriage of those 2 things. So I just think for me at least, I'd love your guys' take on this. I feel that it's incorrect to just say that someone's a good or bad decision maker because you can be a good or bad decision maker in a specific area. Like Mark's a great decision maker at the blackjack table, but he's a really bad decision maker at the kitchen line in pickleball, right? So he's not just a good
I take
decision
offense to that.
what's your guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I've actually never thought of it that way, but I think if you think of anything in isolation when it comes to sports, basketball, then you're probably doing it wrong. It's even goes back to like I think what you're talking about too is like the ability to couple perception and action, where old information processing would be see, decide, do. I don't think the game is played that way. In fact, we know the game is not played that way. Everything is happening all at the same time. So my decision to jump into the passing lane and go snipe a pass, or my decision to make an extra pass on the perimeter, or to Euro step at the rim, like all those things, what I'm seeing and what I'm doing are really happening simultaneously. So I don't think anything happens in isolation. So I don't think, yeah, I would agree. You can't say, oh, this player is a good decision maker. He might have good shot selection, which is one part of decision making.
No, I would agree with that. I think the game happens fast, and there's feel that has to come with that versus just, oh, I need to make this decision and then this decision. Players just have to be able to adjust on the fly and have good feel for what's in front of them.
Let's take it a step further. So there's this concept that is really popular in the education world. So we homeschool our kids. Shout out to all the homeschool parents out there. We homeschool our kids. And one of my homeschooling mentors we're actually going to be having on the podcast in a few weeks. Her name is Dr. Claire Honeycutt, and she's written a lot about this concept of executive function. So, executive function is actually what is the top priority to teach students, especially in a homeschool context. And executive function is not the skill of writing. Executive function is not the skill of data recollection. Executive function is not the skill of math or algebra. Okay. Executive function is the ability to actually tie all these individual concept skills together to apply them to complex problems. And what all the research shows about executive function is the more that you learn any one silo of knowledge, or the more that you develop any one skill set, executive function actually allows you to learn a second skill set faster and better because of all the other skills that you learned. Now, I believe that to be effective and productive, and so we try to educate our children that way. We try to educate them and zoom out from any individual siloed skill set, but rather to apply executive function to it. I also am thinking about this in a basketball sense, that executive function and the more that you can learn and prioritize decision making tied to the physical skill set, that's going to actually increase and improve your function in every other skill set. Because traditionally, we would say, oh, you're a big or you're a center. And so here is this very limited skill set that we need you to be good at in order to fit into the overall team concept. It doesn't develop executive function. It doesn't try to apply that decision making across multiple skill sets. And so ends up making their effectiveness very, very niche. And if we don't need that niche skill set, then they're no longer valuable. And I would actually argue that developing 3-point shooting in your bigs will actually make them more effective at defensive rebounding because it develops executive function. Okay, argue with me, guys, or disagree. Or
I love it. So I have actually had a ton of success with like high level bigs doing exactly that. So
Mm.
one of the first ones, a guy named Jared Bergeron, who actually runs one of our locations in Minneapolis, and he played at Wisconsin. And so I remember the first time I got in the gym with him, I'm like, okay, stereotypical Wisconsin big. He's a big white guy. He's probably not super athletic and probably has great feet.
I
Sounds
think
like
we saw
Tyler.
it.
And then I started to do some footwork stuff with him or specific moves. And anytime you took him away from something that he was comfortable with, like he didn't have great foot control. And I was like,
Mm,
okay, well, everyone's got great feet on their go-to move, but anytime you put them in a situation that's different, we got to be able to test it. And so he was failing the test. And so we put him in a ton of perimeter stuff. And he's looking at me like, I'm never going to do this. I said, listen, you have game situation versus game characteristics. And I think so many coaches just get caught up in game situation. Like, this is what I need you to do. It's these four things. And then we just try to hammer that home. Okay, what's a characteristic of a successful player? Like, you need to be able to increase your vertical. You need to get stronger. Well, you would use a squat rack or dumbbells to help you with that characteristic, but there's no squat rack or dumbbells in the game, but you would still utilize it. So we flipped it. We put Jared on the perimeter at 6'10" and made him do a bunch of crazy things. Well, it ultimately helped his foot control. And then he goes back to the block and it's like, hey, you have great feet. We did the same thing with Megan Gustafson, who won National Player of the Year at Iowa in 2019. She gets the WNBA and she keeps getting cut. So I was like, hey, Meg, like, we're going to have to change how you play because at 6'3", you're probably one of the bigger players in the Big Ten. And now you have Brittany Griner at 6'9", and you're not going to win that battle. So it's like we need to like fight different battles and have different, areas of foot control. We did the same thing with a guy named Tanner Groves who played at Oklahoma. Looks like Paul Bunyan with a beard and a big poofy hair. And he came to us for our pre-draft stuff and we put him on the perimeter. And he's like, this is not my game situation. I said, just wait. We're trying to connect the dots and we're putting everything together. And the crazy part is the day that he made that comment, we were doing some perimeter stuff. That next year in Japan, he made the exact same move, crossed over, ran to space, put it down, spun, and finished. And I'm like, I actually have a clip of you. And 5 minutes before you said, there's no way I'm ever going to do this. And so being able to connect the dots, I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
yeah, those are great
And
examples. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
well, I was gonna say, okay, I got a quick story, and then I got 3 thoughts just based on what both of y'all shared, and then I think it'll be a good segue into sharing these 3 skills that we're gonna dive into that every player should possess. So, first, I was at a Division 1 basketball game recently, and it got into crunch time. So, heated, close game, picture second half or fourth quarter. They made a sub, and I could read the lips of the player that went in the game, and she, like, walked on the floor, she looked around, and then she looked at the bench and said, "Am I the power forward?" And you could tell they were uncomfortable, and I got a little uncomfortable because it's like, power forward, like, we're playing with 5 positions out there where I just feel like positionless basketball is probably more of the norm today. Like, first, I would say let's define positionless. It doesn't mean that everybody does everything. Tyler mentioned every player, every skill. Yeah, that's perfect world, right? But positionless means that just positions are blended where we don't have a point guard, a shooting guard, a small forward, power forward, and a center. We might have ball handlers, 3 and Ds, post players, but our post players are asked to do more than just play in the low post like they maybe traditionally were. So there's a lot of overlap of skill. And I think where this fits into player development or skill development is what you're asked to do determines how good you can become. And that's like similar to what Reed was saying, what Tyler was saying of like, if you have a shooting big, well, that can unlock a lot of other things. If we only ask a player to do, 2 things, it might be play defense and rebound or sit in the dunker spot and catch lobs and I don't know, set screens. Well, 3, 4 years down the road, that's what they're going to be really good at. But we've put them in a box. Tyler said earlier, like if you're really niche, then you've got limited value. So how do we increase the value of every player? Is we ask them to do more. If you're asked to do more, you got more opportunities, and more opportunities is going to yield more decisions in the game, which means you need more solutions. And I think the 3 skills that we're going to share today are all what I would call multiplying skills, meaning that if you possess one of these skills, it's going to add value in way other areas of your game, which would be that executive function, maybe that Tyler was talking about. Is like, if I can do this skill, I now get better at these 5 elements of the game.
Mm, yeah. Okay, let me respond to that, and we'll throw it over to Reed for the first skill. All right, 2 things. First, and most importantly, is a power forward just your second unskilled big? Is that what that means? It's on the floor? I just wanted to throw that out there.
Second tallest player? I don't know.
Growing up in Minnesota, like Kevin Garnett was listed at 6'11 and he's like 7'2, but he didn't want to be a 7 footer because if he was listed, then he would be treated like a old school five. And he was like, I don't want to do that. So these guys were literally lying on their height so that they didn't get like pigeonholed into this, like, I have to be a five and be back to the basket.
Kevin Garnett was so far ahead of his time, and if Kevin Garnett played today, I mean, he would be
Would
he's
he
young.
be like I mean, he wouldn't be Kevin Durant, but he would be closer to Kevin Durant than he would be a traditional center.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Reed, I love all the high level examples that you share and that you did share as we're talking about, developing other skills, like even to go from like a top college player to the WNBA. And I love that the things that are true at the highest levels of play are also true at every lower level of play. And so for all of our coaches listening, I would really encourage you, stay away from this very common excuse. Oh, well, yeah, that works at the college level, but it doesn't work here. Or, oh, yeah, I mean that works in the NBA, but it doesn't work here. No, if it's true, it's going to be true for you as well. And like the specific one is this: like all players will hit a level where their more limited skill set will hold them back and they have to expand and grow. At youth basketball, if you throw your biggest kid under the basket and never let them catch outside the arc and or develop and just say, "Hey, just rebound," they're going to hit a level where that no longer works because they're no longer just good enough or big enough to just be that player. It's true at every single level. And so, even if we zoom out and try to like serve the player in their long-term basketball journey, we're doing them a disservice if we don't develop every skill in every player.
Oh, I completely agree. You use those like the example of Megan, like her transition from college basketball to the pros is where she first got knocked back and was like, "Whoa." But you see that like the biggest fifth grader now gets to
Mhm.
seventh grade and now they're no longer the biggest fifth grader and so they beat everybody by their physical attributes and now they don't have an advantage there anymore, so now they're exposed in seventh grade and some of those kids get exposed in ninth grade or JV to varsity. It for Megan, the first time she got exposed to that was high level college basketball to pro, and so you're absolutely right, like if it's we use that example because people maybe are going to recognize that name, but that happens at every single stage in a player's journey. Like eventually you're going to get to a stage where you're like, that doesn't translate anymore. And I need to figure this out.
Which again is another thing that's getting me so excited about what we're building at Catalyst Training is we're going to help you not get exposed. The things that Reed you're going to be training all these players on are things that most local trainers, most coaches of teams, they just aren't as equipped to be able to develop players because they have a different agenda. Like our agenda is only to help every player not get exposed and maximize their basketball journey. Whereas like your high school coach has a little bit of a different agenda. They want to win a state championship, right? Your local trainer has a little bit of an agenda. They want you to come back and do another training session. They actually want you to become dependent on them, not independent of them and move on. And so that's why I'm just so pumped about this just from a service, and I'm glad we're talking about it because I'm getting even more of a vision and more excited about what we're gonna offer. So with that being said, I think we dive in. All right, Reed, I think you're up first with skill number 1. What's skill number 1?
Skill number one, I think, is understanding spacing and how to play without the ball in your hands. One of the things that we try to do is we try to simplify things as much as possible. And so the older you get, it's like, hey, we got skilled players all around us. We want to create more space, not less. And one of the things that we talk about that players have to fight is this idea of I can't stand and watch. I need to constantly be moving. And we joke that players are taught don't stand and watch in third grade because every third grade basketball player is not very good. And so we end up running to the basketball and then we wonder why we don't have space to do things. And so one of the first concepts that we teach players is like you can cut and move to create space, but you can also cut and move to limit space and congest things. The main skill that I'm talking about is like, how do we space the floor? How do we understand cutting to create space and occupy defenders, but how to hold space and occupy defenders that way to just ultimately make the game that much easier. And so we want to be able to make quick decisions there. And I think it's easier for us to make those decisions if we have much better space.
Why do you guys think most coaching shies away from teaching how to play off the ball?
I think two things come to mind right away. Number one, a lot of this is like a trainer, a cone or a chair, and a player. So it's hard. Like everything is, double move, triple move, counter, all these things that like rarely happen in a game. So usually, I think most players work with a one on one with a trainer. Second thing is the trainer is probably not connecting like any type of like individual skill to team concepts, right? They're not
Mm.
curious, or they're not working towards, well, how does this fit within your team's system, or when you have nine other players on the court, like where do all these things exist? And that probably goes back to where we started, is like we're working on skill or technique in isolation and not with the bigger picture.
When I was with PGC, we actually did a study one season because our season was running summer camp. So in the summer, that's when we were on and teaching. But our off season was when all other teams were in season. So we did this very robust study and actually got an average, the average amount of time that a starter touches the ball in a high school game. Care to guess, gentlemen?
It's way less than we would assume.
Whatever number the listener right now has in their head, like divided by 10,
Yeah.
probably. It's probably like 90 seconds or something.
Yeah, 1 minute and 52 seconds.
Okay.
1 minute and 52 seconds. So in a high school game, this is not even like this is the average of starters, right? So obviously maybe like a primary ball handler is gonna have a little bit more than this, whereas an off-ball player is gonna have a little bit less, but like someone that's playing the majority of the game is gonna have the ball in their hands for 1 minute and 52 seconds. So, in high school, 32-minute game, in college in a 40-minute game, you think you're only if your impact is only gonna be, felt in that 1 minute and 52 seconds that you have the ball in your hands, you are incredibly replaceable. This is why Reed is saying, like, this is an essential skill. Can you impact the game when you don't have the ball in your hands? How do you set screens? Like, how do you burn cut and create space? How do you run the floor in transition, right? How do you move in order to create greater separation when you do catch the basketball? I mean, all of these things are gonna have a greater impact on the game. How you connect her with the pass? Like, all of these things are gonna have a greater impact on the game than just what you do when you have the ball in your hands. Mark, let me ask you this. As a state champion high school coach, how did that skill playing in space. How did it play into, if at all, your decision making on who is going to start, who is going to get playing time?
We definitely prioritize shooting at every position on the floor. Is like, if you can shoot the ball, I think that was one key, because we knew we were going to create space. We ran at that time like an early version of RDS, our offensive system right now, which is we create space and attack space. So yeah, I mean, it really drove all of our decisions. But shooters were obviously prioritized. Players that could play off the bounce were prioritized. And then, to go to Reed's point, like decision making was huge too.
Yeah. Reed, have you worked with this type of player? We were talking about shooting. We'll get into that in a sec. Good shooter, like very effective shooter, very efficient when they get a shot off from three, but just had trouble getting shots, like volume, like couldn't generate volume. Is there ever been anyone you've worked with like, hey, we just have to find a way to help you get more shots off?
Oh yeah. I think there's been tons of players that just the little details of not understanding angles. Like if I'm holding the corner and they drift too high, and it's like, no, now the gap defender has just eliminated that passing lane. If you're 2 feet to the side. Now there's a pocket where they can deliver the pass. I mean, I think you see that all the time. And as you're talking about this, there's two things that come to my mind. I just tried to look it up. I can't find it. I remember hearing something of like Jerry Stackhouse in college once scored like 40 points in a game, and he had the ball in his hands for like under 50 seconds. So it's not isolation basketball. He had a 40 ball, and the ball's like he's creating advantages before the ball's in his hands. Obviously, he's understanding how to get in the right spots, how to come off screens. He's just impacting the game. So the ball's getting to his hands, it's catch and it's out. It's like, I think that's crazy. Megan Gustafson in college once had 35 points on 0 dribbles. Like, if you think Klay Thompson scoring like 61 on 11 was crazy, like that's 35 on 0. Like, you're creating advantages before the ball even gets to you. Now Megan's going to pivot you to death at the block, but I look at some of those things. It's like you can have the skill, you can be the best shooter in the gym, but if you don't understand spacing concepts and how to get open, like your shooting skill set is becomes somewhat irrelevant.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. That's. I'm glad you guys agree because that's what I was thinking about for everyone listening here. Like that's why we put playing off the ball or playing with space first, because you're shooting, like Reed, you just said, your shooting becomes irrelevant if you can't find a way to get open and actually shoot. Again, everything is we zoom out, everything goes back. Like the problem that we're trying to help you solve is working on technique in isolation. What we're trying to help you understand is that skill is the marriage between decision making and technique, and then the application of that skill so it's actually effective in a real game. And it breaks my heart when I see a kid on a shooting machine or doing form shooting at the rim that's never been taught how to actually play and apply that skill. Like, okay, you can shoot 70% on the shooting machine, but you're getting off 2 shots per game and playing 5 minutes. You're not getting a good return on your investment of time, and that's why we're doing what we're doing. Skill number 2 is what we just referenced. Shooting is the separator. Every position, shooting is the separator. Shooting equals spacing. Spacing is the oxygen that lets your offense breathe. If you have 0 shooting skill on your team, you have no space and you can't do anything else. At every position, you're going to hit a ceiling that shooting would then elevate at every position, every size, at every single level. So if shooting is a separator, gosh, I didn't want to get into this, but I have to say this one thing. If shooting is a separator, I would actually argue that it is the first skill that a player should learn because it is the skill that takes the longest to develop. There are few great shooters at a young age because it takes so much time. You can become a better defender faster, you can become a better rebounder faster, you can become a better ball handler faster, then you can become a better shooter. It's usually a later developing skill. I'll give one personal story, then we'll throw it to you guys. So I was a point guard. I transferred from a mediocre college team where I was the best player and the starting point guard and an all conference player to a team that just won back to back national championships. And I was no longer the best at that position of point guard. I'm 6'2". Was fairly athletic as a college player. But I transferred into a national champion that had a 6'7" point guard, who was more athletic than me, a better slasher than me, a better passer than me, and a better defender than me. And so he was starting at point guard, and I wanted to start. And so the only way that I could earn a starting position is I had to be better at one thing than Tyson. Tyson was a starting point guard. I had to be a better shooter, which thankfully I had developed that skill. So then I was able to start next to Tyson as an off ball player, right? They started me at the 2. If I was not a better shooter than every other option on the team, I would have just been playing backup the second half of my college career. Shooting is what's going to extend your career. Shooting is what's going to give you the opportunity to get more minutes at other positions. Shooting is the separator.
I also think it's the first skill that I would start with on a player because it's what I would want them to do, what I would want them to be thinking of when the ball's in the air. So, like, if we're going to break down their decisions or their reads as you would like a quarterback going through their progressions is ball in the air. I want my players catching with the expectation to shoot. So to me, it just starts with a natural flow of player development. When we come into a gym, like start with spacing, right? Okay, here's what space is. Here's where you're going to get your shots from. Now, when the ball is in the air, catch with the expectation to shoot. I think it automatically makes you a more dangerous player because you're weaponizing the catch, but it makes you a better shooter because everything's in rhythm and everything's confident.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I also think we talked about this last night in our live training. Like, if you're a younger player and you're trying to, like, you're a freshman, you're trying to get minutes on the varsity to simplify things. Like, if you can knock down open shots and you can defend, like, there's probably a role for you. This is not necessarily about you coming out here and putting it on the deck. It's like, if you're young, you might be physically outmatched, but man, if you can shoot the basketball, I think that there's a chance that you can crack that rotation.
Yeah, and if you wanna learn a little bit more about how we teach shooting, you can, check out this video, we'll link it below. It's "How to Shoot Like Steph Curry." That title's just clickbait, okay? It's just how to learn how to shoot. Check it out, I think you'll like it. Okay, fun thought experiment, I think, that some of these might be stretches. I would say that shooting is the main difference between Luka Doncic and Josh Giddey. Like, obviously, Luka's incrementally better at certain other things, but, like, both unbelievable passers, both can get into the paint and really good ball handlers with size, right? Um, but beyond that, like, Luka's probably a little bit better finisher, maybe, like, a percentage point more creative and whatnot, but really, I mean, that's the huge difference, is Luka can shoot and Giddey can't shoot as well, especially off the dribble or under a contest.
I think you could argue shooting is the separator there. You said Luca's a little bit more creative. In my mind, I was like, Luca's probably more savvy, pardon the pun, but like
Mm.
creative, savvy, kind of same thing.
Yeah, agreed, agreed. Okay, this might be more of a stretch. I was just thinking about this. What else is a huge separator between, like, an all-star in Rajon Rondo and a two-time MVP in Steve Nash? Besides shooting being the separator, what is the other big difference?
When I think of Rajon Rondo and I visualize the court, I think of him standing at the top of the key, like 2 feet inside the 3 point line, with somebody guarding him standing underneath the free throw line, like
Yeah,
15 feet, like 12 feet off of him. And I think, like, man, it's actually incredible what he was able to accomplish considering that
incredible,
they didn't guard him.
incredible. Like, I have so much respect for Rajon Rondo. I love his game. I mean, his cleverness is probably greater than Steve Nash's because of his inability to shoot and probably forced him to develop that, right? He's a better defender, we all know this, right? Probably a better finisher, and yet Steve Nash is a two-time MVP, both unbelievable passers, right? Like,
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe with the separator there, my thought is like Nash was probably a more dangerous scorer just all around. I know shooting, but also when I think of Rondo, I just think of like the ultimate point guard of just make your teammates better, run the show, like throw these passes where you're just like, oh my gosh, where did that come from? Which Nash had too. But yeah, I guess the what would separate them, in my opinion, from the All Star to the MVP was just like one can probably score 20 to 30 night in, night out. And if Rondo ever did that, it was like, oh, whoa, like he probably had a triple double if he did that.
One thing that pops in my head is just like the evolution of the game where I remember watching and Rondo's got the ball at the top of the key and they're way backed off of him and he's in the like the lead guard spot. Well, it's not that different than what Golden State does with Draymond. Like, throw the ball to the top of the key and the guy's standing in, underneath the nail. And now you have shooters, coming off because Draymond's going to run into DHOs and do stuff like that. But I don't know how different it is because Rondo's just kind of standing there waiting for Ray Allen or somebody to come off of a pin down. So the Warriors are like, well, we can do that. We'll just kind of do that with one of our bigs.
yeah. I mean, playing through your non-shooter, if they have that skill set, is probably the best way to counteract their lack of spacing off the ball for sure. Okay, alright, this one is a little harsh, but I'll go ahead and say it anyway. The difference between Klay Thompson being in and out of the league is just shooting. I mean, like every other part of his skill set, especially now a little bit later in his career, he was a solid defender, obviously, at peak Klay Thompson, but, like, it's the difference between in and out of the league, is his ability to shoot. And I mean, the career extension that has provided him and so many other players, I mean, is counted in the tens of millions of dollars. Is like shooters get paid. It's why they call it the money spot. If you can knock down a corner three at an above league average rate, you're gonna make millions of dollars to play the game. So it's pretty unbelievable.
I think of guys like Steve Novak and Ryan Anderson. Got
Mhm.
like these guys just hung around. Like Nate Wolters was a guy who got drafted by the Bucks the same year as Giannis. And I worked with Nate for like 6 years. Giannis publicly credited Nate for teaching him how to work hard. Nate couldn't shoot above 30% from three as a 6'4" point guard. And he ended up having a great career in the EuroLeague, but it was like, dude, you're a 6'4" point guard, you have an unbelievable floater, you're a willing passer, you're a really good passer, but he just couldn't shoot the three and he couldn't stick because of it. And if he could have shot the three, it's like, dude, you're a 10 to 15 year backup point guard caliber player. He just couldn't shoot it at the time.
That is a good name. I loved his game. I was a big fan of Nate Walters. Appreciate you brought it up. Okay, Mark, give us the 3rd
Yeah, my third
skill.
skill is one that is near and dear to my heart, for 2 reasons. Number 1, I wasn't taught it, and probably still not very good at it, as Tyler has seen me play. Uh, 2, I've seen how much it impacts my team. So my skill is, to me, the ultimate multiplier is playing off 2 feet. Uh, I think it's gaining traction. It's becoming more and more popular. Example would be Villanova. Like they were under Jay Wright, they were like a great team example of what playing off 2 feet can do for you, your personal game, but also how it unlocks everything for your team. And then Jalen Brunson is a great individual example as well. Like we're talking about what separates players. Like if Jalen Brunson didn't have the ability to play off 2 feet with balance and power and all these counters and pivots and uh, he probably wouldn't be the player that he is, right? So if there was a skill, when I say multiplier, if we can develop the ability to play off 2 feet, I think it eliminates bad shots, it eliminates missed shots, it eliminates turnovers, which means that you're going to have more assists, you're going to score more points, you're going to be a more efficient player. And when we're talking about skills that like get you on the court or get you to the next level, get you achieving your goals, something that you can work on in the off season and that we will help you with is playing off 2 feet. When do we play off 2 feet? How do we play off 2 feet? Why do we play off 2 feet? So yeah, I mean, it's something that to me is gonna slow down the game for you as a decision maker. We talked about how decision making is one of the hardest parts of the game, and it's like underrated skill or underdeveloped skill. Playing off 2 feet is gonna help you do all of those things, and I think as a player, if I said you could have better vision, better balance, better power, get more assists, score more points, you would sign up for that, which that means you gotta sign up for playing off 2 feet.
Okay, a stat here from my friends over at PGC in the Big South Championship game, which occurred just a couple of days ago. It was High Point versus Winthrop. Their field goal percentage when attempting shots in the paint off 2 feet, High Point shot 80% off of 2 feet. When attempting shots at the rim off 1 foot, they shot 33% in this one game. This is a single game, right? Winthrop, 2 feet, 65%, and 1 foot, 29%. Like a 40% difference on average between 1 foot and 2 foot. It's just an absolute cheat code. And okay, let me just real quick apply these 3 things and give a challenge to every coach listening right now. Probably the lowest hanging fruit and the quickest way for you to improve your team is to improve your players, right? Better players equal better team. Way more than better system equals better team, right? You have a better system, I have better players, my team beats yours most of the time, right? So better players equals better team. Okay, so 1, what's your application of all this information as a coach? Focus more on, I'm going to say player development, of which skill development is a part of. Focus more on that because better players equal a better team. Okay, where do you start? Here's where you start. These 3 things that we just shared, right? Develop better shooters, teach them how to play in space off the basketball, and to help them develop how to play off 2 feet at the rim. You just scored 10 to 12 more points per game next season without changing your system at all. So, like, that's just a real applicable challenge to coaches. So I just wanted to throw that out there before we kind of go back to the 2 feet. Like, this is the framework. All right, sorry, one more thing, then I'll throw it to you guys. So when I show up and work with a team, right, I take a look at a practice or take a look at your film. This is the lens of a savvy coach. This is the lens by which I'm evaluating where there's opportunities with your team. Um, can you shoot? Can you play in space? And do you play off 2 feet? If not, like, shooting takes longer, but the other 2 things you can improve immediately and right away. And it's just the quickest way for you to have a lens and evaluate your team if you're like, "Man, we're not as good as we should be." Okay, well, take a look at these things and then focus on these things in your practice time.
Yeah. Those 3 things are something that every player can improve on too, right? Like, it's kinda like, turnovers, rebounding, toughness for a team is like, "Oh, we're never tough enough. We never rebound well enough. We never handle the ball well enough because there's always room for improvement." So, if you can play in space, you'll get the ball more, okay? Because the ball is gonna find you. If you can shoot, well, you're gonna score more points, but also defense is gonna take away your shot, which gives you more opportunities to drive. And then when you play off 2 feet, that unlocks infinite amount of opportunities. You gave the stats on High Point and Winthrop. It's like when you go off 1 foot, like this is a little bit extreme. 1 foot equals like 1 solution. That's usually shoot. Doesn't mean that you can't throw a 1 foot pass or anything like that. But when you play off 2 feet, it unlocks all different types of solutions for your game. So no matter what problem or what the defense does, is playing off 2 feet is going to give you the ability to counter that and make better decisions for yourself. So you score, but also for your teammates, which is going to unlock everything. So now they're playing in space. When you kick out, they have the ability to shoot, and then they have the ability to drive, which is why Tyler said better players will beat better systems most of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a stat on Twitter a couple years ago, and it's on Twitter, so it's factual because everything on
Right.
Twitter is factual.
Obviously.
Grok, check
Um,
this.
yeah, so we can fact check this live, but it said something like NBA players shoot like around 33% when they're contested at the rim. And I would attribute a lot of that to situations where we play off of 1 foot when we should play off of two. And the way that I explain this to players and coaches is like if you're in a blow by situation with little to no contact, that's a race to the rim. We want to get there in the least amount of steps, least amount of dribbles, so we can jump off of 1 foot. If you have a defender that's on your hip, and I use this example a lot, we'll start at the elbow. Like they're on my hip, I have an advantage, but I'm not in a blow by situation. So if I go as fast as I can and I get to the block and they're still on my hip, I haven't gained anything by being fast, which means that it's less about speed and more about control. And we have so many players that just put their head down thinking that speed gains them the advantage. Well, it might if the defender's behind you, but that doesn't happen a whole lot in the half court. So we need to be able to slow down and be able to get to 2 feet and recognize, hey, am I in a blow by or am I in a contact situation? And if it's contact, slow down. Control matters more than speed in those situations. And it also leads to how teams are starting to defend. Like we don't help off ball side corner, because I would say the two best shots we can get are rim twos and kick out threes, inside outside threes. So if I'm attacking the right slot and I get to like the right block, I'm going, okay, defensively, if I help off the corner and I kick this out, that's at least a 33% shot that's worth three. And if they're at 33% in the NBA when they're contested, what are we at the high school level? We're probably not at 33%. So now we're looking, that shot in the corner is worth more and it's at a higher percentage. We're just going to try to rotate someone from the backside and go vertical and contest that. We're just not going to give up three. So it's like we have to play off of 2 feet when we're at the rim to improve our shooting percentage there.
Reed just unknowingly taught the lock left defense as well. So go to lockleft.com and you can. No, that was good. That was very funny. You said I don't know what you said a couple weeks ago. You're like, yeah, I'm not a lock left guy, but I've been watching some lock left videos and I kind of agree with some of the things that you're saying.
No,
So
like I wouldn't I hear no, I said like oh, I'm not I wouldn't be a lock left guy. And then I'm working with high schools and I'm like, just force them left because they can't
yeah,
throw that pass. And then all of a sudden I'm like,
yeah.
that kind of sounds like lock left. Yeah, that's
You're a lock
like,
left
yeah,
guy. We'll get you a shirt.
yeah. If we're forcing them left, they can't make that. Oh, yeah, yeah. That sounds like lock left.
Yeah, my daughter played in a 3-on-3 tournament this past weekend, and I gave her one bit of advice as she was walking onto the floor. They were like the youngest. They were playing in a division up, and so I'm looking at these like giants she's about to play against, and I just looked at her. I was like, "Lock the ball. That's all you have to do. Like instantly, we'll level the playing field a little bit."
This podcast has got me very excited about Catalyst training. Um, it just cemented for me how valuable it's gonna be for players and coaches. We've seen a lot of coaches get in there already, in order to learn how to teach their players or provide access to their sons and daughters. Um, Again, we're kicking off a playmaker challenge. Reed, what would be one just bonus that you'd wanna share that you're looking forward to in the Playmaker Challenge coming up, that you're just excited to teach or that you think will be, really valuable to people?
Well, I think there's so many things that go into being a dynamic playmaker. And I think for athletes that go into it, like, do I get better at this? Do I do this? Do I do this? It's like, no, we want to come and give you a plan and just say, like, hey, we're going to identify 14 things that we think are really valuable. We're going to give you a challenge each day that's going to help you understand that concept. Some of the concepts you're going to go, okay, I get that. Some of these concepts you're going to go, wow, I never thought about that. And that's really simple. And I think that it's going to be easy for me to add that to my game. You know, when we talk about skill development, I think we view it through the lens of, hey, I'm going to go work with Tyler and I'm going to teach him something that he doesn't know and can't do. And I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's, I go to Tyler and say, hey, dude, you already have this skill set. You're just kind of unaware of it. And here's how we're going to frame this out so that you can be more aware of it and then start using it versus having to teach you from the ground level. And so that's what this course is, this challenge is
Good.
for, is to say, hey, we're going to identify different skills. We're going to not only teach you how to do them, but we're going to teach you the purpose so that you can very simply add them to your game. And I'm really excited about that.
Man, I'm excited about it too. It was great just to get to talk basketball with you more, Reed. And as we're going to continue to build this thing together, we'll get to do this a lot more. I think this was a treat for all of our coaches, Reed. So thanks for coming on and doing it. This is a big episode, but I think it's jam packed of great nuggets. Mark, any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Just your reminder to stay savvy.
Stay savvy. Thanks,
All
Reed.
right.